It's the second time they already.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Big Apple Hockey. I'm having a little bit of breakfast right now. That was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. So, oops. But it's great to be back, everybody. And it's not so great to have a trade happen when all of us were unavailable. I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams, who is really annoyed at Chris Drury and Jim Rutherford. Seriously, guys, you couldn't have done this at 1 o'clock yesterday. And joined, of course, from the hockey news, Mr. Anthony Larocco.
Yeah, for the second week in a row, we had big Friday night trades, and two of them, because the Canucks completed a second transaction a few hours later, close to midnight. So definitely a lot of action there.
Anthony, I'm a little bit worried about a boring trade deadline now, because if Miller's already gone, Rantanen's already gone. Starting to think what the hell is left.
But Rantanen wasn't even expected to be traded, so he's not like a rental that's now off the board. That was like a bonus trade. So still could be a lot of action. But yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about it, right? You know, with the break for the Four Nations, I think a lot of teams are using it almost as like a mini deadline to get a head start. Just the way with how things are so closely compacted, especially in the East in terms of the standing. So, maybe it's a surprise, kind of how it happened again, seemingly out of nowhere, but it shouldn't be a surprise in the sense that, I mean, we all knew that JT Miller, it was probably going to be the Rangers or bust. So that aspect of it's not shocking at all.
Yeah, it was kind of like one of the worst kept secrets in the National Hockey League. And it's something that we kind of knew was going to happen. I was against this trade all along. However, it's happened. Time to analyze it. And that's where we're going to go to the JT Miller going back to the New York Rangers. He's back in the New York groove. He's going to be coming back with Eric Brandstrom and Jackson Dorrington. Going to Vancouver, Philip Hedl, player a lot of people like, but we have to be honest, he's one hit away. We all know this. I thought that hit came back in October versus the San Jose Sharks when K'Andre Miller took him out. Victor Mancini, promising defenseman, but where's he really going to play with the big club? And a lottery-protected first-round draft pick. Now, that's big news because in case of the Rangers don't make the playoffs and just go in the tank for the next so on, like what? I want to say 6 weeks, Anthony, but that's absolutely wrong. It's more like I think it's like 10 weeks left of actual games if you take out the Four Nations tournament. And just for some, they just didn't want to roll themselves out on Higgins. All right, Anthony, here's the JT Miller stats for this season. 9 goals, 26 assists, 35 points. With Vancouver, he was a 100-point scorer, and he had 92 in 404 games. With the Rangers, not nearly as much when he was here the first time around. Who wins this trade, short-term, long-term?
That's a tough question. Obviously with Philip Hedl's injury history, with realistically being one hit away to the head from maybe never playing again. So, if that happens, then the Canucks pretty much win. I mean, the Rangers win this trade hands down because now, the Canucks don't even have that first anymore because for everyone doesn't know or, went to bed, they flipped that pick to the Penguins in a trade for Marcus Pettersson. So, I think with Hedl's injury history, if he were to get hurt and, hurt again or never plays again from getting another concussion, then long term, obviously, it's not the Canucks. But then on the other hand of it, JT Miller's going to be 32 years old. So on the flip side, if Phil Peedle stays healthy, and takes another step in his career and goes on to be a big contributor for the Canucks, and JT Miller, maybe falls off a little bit as he gets older, then the Canucks win the deal. So, right now, I think it's beneficial to both teams. The Canucks get rid of a player that, wanted out and caused and caused the rift in the locker room with Elias Pettersson. And in exchange, they get a young player that does have potential as long as he could stay on the ice. And the Rangers get a guy that has been a 100-point scorer. They're familiar with him, and they're trying to get back into the playoffs here. So, right now, I guess you classify it as a win-win, but there's a lot of variables to this trade that it's really way too soon to kind of project who would win long-term and short-term. Short term, I think it's like I said, I think it's good for both sides. Long term, I mean that's impossible to answer depending on how things transpire here.
And by the way, Evan was mentioning it depends if you want to count Marcus Pettersson because they flipped the pick. Apparently, by the way, they want to just get every Pettersson on Vancouver right now. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. But Anthony, it's there's a lot to take in from this trade, and it is Miller coming home. I don't like reunions.
No,
maybe this is the first one that really works out. Maybe, I don't know. It could be, and it doesn't really matter because it has to now.
Yeah,
you got Miller for 5 years. There better be something. And I've been saying this all along, especially since the Alexei Lafreniere signing, that it means Chris Kreider is gone in the offseason. There is no chance Chris Kreider's on this team. Now,
I do agree. I think Chris Kreider does have a chance to getting traded. I wouldn't say it's a lock though, by any means. Maybe if the Rangers miss the playoffs, then maybe they move on from him.
Rangers just added JT Miller onto. Sorry, there's a thumb pointing, but let me change that. The Rangers just added JT Miller. That's $8 million. They added Igor Shesterkin, a ridiculous $6.5 million on top of his current contract, $5.5. And Alexei Lafreniere is getting a boost in pay for $5 million. There ain't no way Chris Kreider's on this team. I don't care how much that cap goes up.
I don't know. I mean, the cap's going up by a lot, and he's a long-term Ranger. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a chance he could get moved. I just wouldn't put the cart before the horse and say he's definitely gone. I don't think you draw that conclusion yet. But NYR for Life saying here, I personally don't like the trade. I know Phil said last time this trade will change the culture of the locker room, and while I agree with that, I don't know if it changes it for the better. I mean, Miller's a fiery guy. He's obviously in Vancouver. He saw something in Pettersson that he didn't like or perceived it to be a nonchalantness that he didn't care, possibly. I don't know, I'm making assumptions, but and obviously, he doesn't like that because he wants everyone pulling on the same rope. But he's a guy that maybe he does light a fire under Zibanejad's ass. Maybe he kind of, not that he gets in Zibanejad's face because you don't want the same problem to happen in New York, but maybe he challenges everybody to be better and they raise their game. So we'll have to see how that transpires there.
Anthony, I'm sorry. You played hockey. I still play. You ever have a guy just come to your locker room and start screaming?
No, I mean,
you look at him and go, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah,
get the hell out of here. So Miller better remember that. After all, there's only 2 Rangers on this roster he's played with. But Josh is saying right here, Drury clearly has a vision to get rid of Mika Kreids and change the culture. Well, change the culture is one thing.
Yeah,
that's if it can happen.
Well, yeah, because Mika has that no movement clause, which I think there's ways to get him to waive it, but he didn't want to waive it to Vancouver. I mean, that was much as said. He did not go to Vancouver. He did not wait for there. So,
right.
Would he waive for another situation? Then possibly. But what I do think though is bringing in Miller, going to be 32, another $8 million center. I do wonder if this is a precursor to really trying to move Zibanejad in the offseason, because do you really want 2 guys that are pretty much a similar age making almost the exact amount of money on your team at the same time. I personally think Miller could be the eventual replacement for Zibanejad if they can get him to waive his no movement clause at some point. So I don't see. Put it this way, I would probably say it's less than a 30% chance that both Miller and Zibanejad finish out these contracts on the Rangers. I think at some
I
point,
agree with you on that. By
one of them will be moved before it expires, and just based on the fact that they just reacquired Miller, it's going to be Zibanejad. That's just so. I think that's just my assumption of where things are headed here.
Now, Anthony, let's go into this thought for a minute. Where does Miller fit on this team?
I mean, he's going to play in the top 6. He's going to play in the top 6. He's going to get power play time. That's just you don't bring in a guy that's making $8 million with 5 years left on his contract to put him as a third line center. You just don't. So I think he's going to play in the top 6, and they're going to give him minutes, and they're going to give him every opportunity to get to the level of production that he's hit the last couple of years. So I think he's going to be a main fixture of their offense.
This is why I hate this trade. And I think about this all the time because I was trying to do it last night at the bar talking to somebody. I'm like, all right, well, the trade happens. Now you have to analyze it. Where are you going to be? Well, you got to go down the middle. Zibanejad, Trocheck, Miller. Use Trocheck as your matchup center. And if you put Miller in the top 6, you better find a defensive center to go on your third line. It's not Johnny Brodzinski. You can't do Johnny Brodzinski. And the fourth line's playing the best that it is right now. So, as David's saying right here, JT is going to be effective on the power play here as he was in Vancouver because he'll be taking Trocheck's spot, which is the shooting spot. That's the thing, too. Who are you moving off the power play one? But let me finish with the lines first, Anthony, because if you put him in the top 6, you put him on the right side of, let's say, Kreider and Zibanejad, then your third line is completely exposed. I do think Miller would probably play best with Will Cooley. I think those two games would probably complement each other very well. And then you'd have Zibanejad, Riley Smith, and then you'd have to put Kreider back up there because Kreider and Hedel just really weren't working. Right now, Chris Kreider with the Cy Young numbers. And there isn't a definitive answer. Now, going back to power play, Anthony,
I think
who's
this is
the guy you take off? I do think JE is onto something right here.
Definitely
take off Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah, put him on the second unit. I think that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, and look, Mika Zibanejad he's got the yips. He right now isn't the player that he was last year. Never mind 2020 when every fan was slurping him. But it's who it is right now. Miller's the better player. And let's see if Miller comes in with the passion that he's shown recently.
He should, right? I mean, this is where he wanted to be. He got his wish. So you think he's going to come in and he's going to be motivated. And he has to be though, because this is a pivotal point for the Rangers. They went on that really hot streak to get themselves back in the mix when everyone thought they were dead. But now they lost their last 2. And Mark, right now the Lightning hold the last wild card spot. They are 5 points ahead of the Rangers. If the Rangers were to lose to the Bruins today, and then the Islanders cool off, and the Lightning beat the Islanders, the Rangers will be, once lo and behold, all of a sudden they're going to be 7 points out of a playoff spot again if that transpires. So this is a big moment in their season. Hopefully Miller can come in and kind of really continue the charge again, because if that happens, if the Rangers lose to Boston, who are also above, so that's a big game in its own right. If they lose to Boston and Tampa Bay beats the Islanders, then again 7 points out of a playoff spot is that's a big hole.
Yep.
Can they dig out of it twice? That will be tough. So they made this trade, even though that just shows that Drury, like Lou. I mean, you see Lou. I mean, he signs D'Angelo, trades for Peruvinich, claims Adam Boquist. He's not giving up. Drury's not giving up either, and that's what this trade signifies. But again, if they lose to Boston today and Tampa Bay beats the Islanders, they're going to be facing a pretty big hole again.
Yeah, because when you're a GM, Anthony, you have to have one eye looking towards the present and one eye looking towards the future. I was going to say cross-eyed, but that's wrong. I don't even know what that's
Saad signed with Vegas yesterday, Steve. He's
Steve. That would have been at least a good signing for the Rangers, but this is really, and Brody Bro, you're right about this one too. I don't think they're necessarily in must-win territories yet. I almost rolled the R on that one, but they're in pretty dire straits.
Yeah.
And the only reason why, Anthony, is only because there's 32 games left to go for the Rangers.
No,
but you don't want to get too far behind. I agree with you on that.
There is, because if that happens, what I laid out, if they fall 7 points out of playoff spot, you got to remember, like, everybody's playing each other, so they fall 7 points out, and then Columbus is going to play Tampa, who were also ahead of the Rangers, and one of them is going to get points. So it could get to a point where, no matter even if you want Tampa to lose, Columbus is picking up points or Boston's picking up points. So 7, that would be a hard hole to climb out of. And I think, for the Rangers, the time is now. They need to beat the team in Boston that's ahead of them. They need to win the game and hopefully get back on their hot streak. They were on fire. They dropped their last 2. They got to keep it going,
It's a good thing they have to do this right now, where you have to incorporate a new piece on the fly, including guys that left and that you traded for us. It's rough. Laviolette can get something done. Obviously, you saw what the Rangers did the last month, where they made up a lot of ground. But then again, like Anthony, you look at them right now. As you just said, let me outline it and back up what you're saying too.
Well, John he banked no points this weekend. It would be kind of a massive blow. The Rangers.
They got 2 games at hand on Columbus. That's going to help them. Columbus is in the first wild card spot.
Yeah.
But you have the Bruins that are ahead of them, the Red Wings that are ahead of them, the Islanders that are ahead of them, the Canadiens that are ahead of them, and the Flyers who are tied with them. And while you're at it, the Penguins are 2 points back of them. I'm just saying that for the record. The Penguins ain't making the playoffs. So the Rangers, if they're going to make a push, you're right about that. You got to start now. It's just they're behind the 8 ball. I could use all the superlatives that we possibly could get. We should have Phil coming on in a moment, everybody.
Dude, knowing the Rangers, they missed the playoffs, end up with the 14th pick. It goes to the Pens and ends up being the superstar, destroying the Rangers for 15 years.
Well, I mean, it's not as bad as, say, trading correct me if I'm wrong, the 15th overall pick for a barely NHL defenseman. Now, a prospect. He was supposed to be pretty good in Griffin Reinhart. So then watching Matt Barzal be amazing for years. Peter Chiarelli, you wonder why you were terrible in.
Oh yeah, Chiarelli, that was just terrible. He was awful. But I mean, the top 13 protected for the Rangers is, I think that's big. That at least gives them some protection, obviously, and hopefully for the Rangers' sake that that doesn't come into play. But win some games and it won't be an issue.
Well, again, after Jim Rutherford said that there was a problem, I mean, I can't believe the Rangers actually gave more than what they did. It's, again, Anthony, it's a lot that the Rangers have to figure out where Miller fits. They got to fit him into that locker room and on the fly. And as you just diagrammed, they don't really have much room for error. So I do think they're going to go on a run. I think losing today is the worst. Yeah, knowing the Rangers like it will be the 14th pick, right on that one. Evan, who was able to do his stream last night, again, did a great job.
The Filkmeisters here. You know what it is though. When you look at the standings, I know Ottawa. I'll let Phil jump in here in a second. But when you look at the standings, you got to assume Ottawa's third in the Atlantic right now. Let's just give Tampa Bay the benefit of the doubt just because of who they are and who they've been. So let's just say Tampa Bay eventually takes that third spot. So now you have 2 wild card spots. That's really going to come down to what? Ottawa, Columbus, Rangers, Islanders, and I mean, Boston, Detroit. That's a lot of teams there. So, I mean, realistically, I don't think it's going to be Boston or Detroit. I think Columbus, Ottawa, Rangers, and Islanders will probably be the four teams fighting it out for those two spots. I don't believe in Detroit. I don't believe in Montreal. And Boston, honestly, Boston just looks like they just look like they're falling down a little bit. But that again, that's why tonight's game is so important for the Rangers, because you need to beat Boston, and then you actually want to root for the Islanders to beat Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay holds that second wild card spot.
Yeah, I think Ottawa's the one that drops out of that. And let's welcome in John right now. How we doing, Phil?
Yeah, another trade on a Friday night. So this is pretty interesting that they make this move. It happens. I guess you could call it the second time is the charm, but I like it. They didn't give up a lot. Another thing, I don't know if you guys discussed this part of it yet, but Boston was supposedly one of the teams that was in on JT Miller. So they just took away what would have been a real good center option from the Bruins. Because if the Bruins would have gotten him and the Rangers didn't really have another, avenue to improve their team, oh man, that would not look good. Because I know you're talking about standings. It's kind of like when the Yankees sign a free agent that the Red Sox are going after. Not only are the Yankees improving themselves, but they're taking away from the Red Sox. So this is a real good move for the Rangers. Now, I know people are talking about the salary and the AAV and the fact that he's making $8 million until 29-30. So he's on a contract, 5 more years after this. I don't have a problem with that salary. I don't, because I think you're going to get at least 3 very, 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 very to great years, very, very good to great years. You're going to get at least 1 or 2 very good years. So I mean,
well, once again, it's a good thing they took $5 million and burned it next year.
In what aspect?
The extra money they paid Shesterkin. I'm still on contract.
Yeah, I mean, dumb, but that's just me. I'm not going to get into that. We've beaten.
Yeah, I know. I beat that horse too much.
Yeah. So it's your Vancouver. They Farhan Lalji. I saw a video from him earlier, and it said, it's actually from last night, I think, and it said that he called it addition by subtraction because they had to get Miller out of there. They had to move on. And I understand that. And now maybe I don't think Vancouver moves Pettersson now. I think they got the return they wanted for Miller. I think, you look at that team and are they really going to just tear everything down and go full rebuild? I don't think so after the Pettersson move that they made last night. When you go and you get a first round pick, like if they were to keep that first round pick, or they were to use it for a younger asset, okay. But they went and they spent on one of the better, impending unrestricted free agents available in Marcus Pettersson. So I think that Vancouver is not going to deal Elias Pettersson unless they get a deal where they're getting a legitimate young player that's very close to becoming a legitimate star. So I do like this though, because you got the guy you wanted. You got him at a cheap price. Yeah, Vancouver didn't retain, and maybe that was part of the discussion. I don't think that was ever really happening for that long to retain. I mean, even if it's $1 million for 5 years, you're taking away a retention slot from a team. And that's big, because what happens if Vancouver were to belly out, trade Pettersson, and then they go into the next trade deadlines and they have one of their retention slots used. So I just think that this is a good fit. I know that there's concerns about Mika Zibanejad because Mika Zibanejad has kind of like the same demeanor as Elias Pettersson. And you got to wonder if there's conflicts there. But you got to remember, these two were teammates already for probably about, I would say, 100 and something games plus playoffs. So they've been teammates already, and they know each other. The other thing is you bring in a guy who is best friends with probably the guy that would wear the captaincy if we had to pick a captain right now, Vincent Trocheck. So I'd imagine that he's going to come into this locker room. He obviously teamed with Chris Kreider as well. Long
played on the same line together.
Yeah, they did, and I just think this is the jolt, the culture change that they needed. I mean, this is the alpha male that's needed in this lineup because there's none outside of maybe Trocheck. So I like this. I think I hope he's playing today because you're absolutely right. They need to get those points against Boston today. They need a regulation win. It's got to be a regulation win.
Yeah.
And I know he'll play against Vegas tomorrow. That won't be a problem. But it's gotta be 2 points today and no points for Boston.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, we were just talking about the standings. Things are getting so tight right now, and you don't want to fall behind possibly 7 points, especially if
Getting late early.
beats the Islanders. So yeah, it starts now. I mean, the playoff push is just gonna really keep getting even more intense with how close these teams are. And the Chris Drury made this move because he feels that getting Miller now is a leg up on the field, which I see a lot of general managers. Well, not really a lot. I mean, Rutherford is one, Lou is another one. They like to do their work early. So the Rangers doing this move now, again, Drury feels like gives them a little bit of a head start here as teams start to look at where their rosters are and what moves they have to make to get into the playoffs. So we'll see what kind of impact JT Miller has in the lineup tonight. But yeah, they got to beat Boston in regulation. You can't have a loss to the Bruins here without getting at least a point.
Yeah, I think it's got to be 2 points in regulation. I don't think you can give Boston points at this point. I mean, it's not like you're so far deep to the point where, I mean, Boston has 53 games played, so they've got 29 games left. Rangers have 32 games left, but you got to start getting points against the teams that you play in those 4-point games, and you got to make sure that you beat those teams in regulation at this point. This race is way too tight. And yeah, you're talking about teams that are going to drop off. I do think Detroit's going to drop off. I'm not buying what they have any bit. The Islanders are on a hot streak right now, like you talked about the other day. They're going to cool off a little bit. Teams that go on crazy hot streaks always eventually cool off. I think Montreal is going to eventually drop out. I don't think they have the firepower. Philadelphia, another one. Pittsburgh, another one. Buffalo's not even close, so we're not going to talk about Buffalo. But I think Columbus is legitimate just because Werenski is literally single-handedly willing them there. And if he has to play 30 minutes a game to make sure that they win games, I think he's going to do so. The problem with that is that if Columbus makes the playoffs, that team's going to be burnt out. By
the way, I know everybody keeps on having this opinion. I don't think Miller ups the value of Zibanejad in any way. The only thing that gets that there's correlation or causation, whichever one you want to say, is Miller. Mika's got to realize that his career as a New York Ranger is on the line right now, and that's what's got to get him going.
I don't know if it's necessarily that right now. I really don't. I think Chris Drury did this because I think he knows his job's on the line. Because I think if they miss the playoffs, he's gone.
Yeah, possibly.
I think to me, this seems like a move like, hey, let's get this season right, and we have to make the damn playoffs. I mean, I just couldn't. I can't see it any other way. I mean, we knew that Drury was in a little bit of a heater, if you will, with this seat because of everything that went on in the offseason and the inability to get the Trouba thing done right, and then having the team quit on him for as as long as they did. I have to see this as Chris Drury trying to save his job as well. So I wouldn't say that, David Wood. Chris Drury's not Glenn Sather. Tell you that. Dolan respected Glenn Sather way too much. I don't think the same level is there. I really
Also,
don't.
by the way, the drop off from being a President's Trophy winner and a Stanley Cup favorite to this, that's going to really hurt him.
Yeah,
and the Rangers the Rangers going to go from the game in Boston today, Vegas tomorrow, Boston Wednesday, Pittsburgh Friday, Columbus Saturday, and then it's the Four Nations break. Sure, they're going to have a couple easy games, if you want to call them that, because you never know with the Rangers. But they got that big game against the Islanders at the end of the month right now, guys. And it's looking like a bigger game every single day.
Yeah, but it's still way too early to say how big that game is going to be, because I mean there's still a lot of time.
Yeah,
between now and then.
There's a lot of games.
So,
yeah, a lot of things can happen.
They could both the Rangers and Islanders could if they were to lose both their games this weekend, they could be looking at a 7 or 8 point deficit after this weekend, depending on what other teams do. So I don't know. It's just right now, if that game was tomorrow, then yes, it's a huge game. A month from now, or however long it is, it might not be. So again, they'll put the horse before the cart there, Mark. It's still a lot can happen.
I do know.
You could talk about him not being responsible for the makeup for the team, but the fact of the matter is that the players clearly had an issue with the GM. I mean, and multiple players have come out and talked about the way that things have been handled, and then the players pretty much quit on the GM. They weren't quitting on the coach. They said they had no problem with the coach. So, I mean, whether you think that, whether he's responsible for the makeup or the team or not, doesn't really matter. I mean, at some point, he's going to have to take a brunt of it, because I don't think Laviolette's getting fired, because I don't think this is on Laviolette. I really don't. And I don't see it being Chris Drury's last move either. I think he's going to make other moves. I think there will be a defenseman that comes in, and maybe even a third line center at this point. If they don't go 1-2-3 with Miller, Zibanejad, and Trocheck, and Miller plays wing, then you're probably going to look at a third line center and JT Miller or Mika Zibanejad possibly playing wing.
Yeah, I'm still having trouble trying to see where the lines are on that. But Anthony, you were making this point yesterday, and I just want you to kind of expand on that about the comments made by VC, that further the comments made by Jones and previously Kakko.
Well, yeah, I mean they were both three guys that were frustrated with how they're being used, and which is normal. The thing that sticks out is there are a lot of guys across the league that are extra forwards or extra D, and they don't speak out about it and talk about how brutal it's been for them, and because typically guys, even though you're not playing, you still feel like a part of a team, and you put your own needs before the team, and you're just happy that your team is playing well, even though maybe you're necessarily not playing. So I think the fact that these three guys kind of voiced their opinion just goes to show the kind of leadership in the room, or the leadership group not bringing everyone, not making everyone feel a part of the team, or they just not leading the right way. And I think that's that's an issue. I think they need to fix that. I don't think that's on Drury. That could be the guys inside the room, but it definitely made you raise your eyebrow when you have that many players kind of echoing similar sentiments.
Yeah, I with Zach Jones, and I like Jones, but there's a lot of work for him to do defensively. He's just not good enough defensively at the NHL level. He's really not. He's small. I would liken his situation a lot to Scott Perunovich. Well, except for Jones is a much better skater and a better shooter, if you ask me. But both undersized defensemen that are puck movers, that are not good defensively, and they're looking for second chances in a different place. I don't know how Perunovic is going to work out with the Islanders long term, so I'm not going to say a whole lot there. He was very highly touted as a prospect, but he's shown at the NHL level that his defense and the fact that he's just small, he gets pushed around a lot. So for Jones, he's in that type of boat, although he's like I said, a better skater and a better shooter. Terms of VC, what does he give you outside of okay defensive play and penalty killing?
And especially now, what's his role?
The offense just isn't there. It's not. He doesn't give you points. It's not like he's going out there and scoring 10 to 15 goals and 20 to 25 points a year. I mean, he's not a consistent fourth line scorer. I mean, he was a guy that was giving you close to 20 goals and 30 plus points back in his like prime, but that he's not that player anymore. So he's another one. Just you kind of got to accept the fact that you're not really all that good. I mean, I get it. He wants to play, but you also got to give the coach a reason to play you. And I get it. And this is really kind of it. He thinks he's better than Rempe and does it. And while he might be a better player than Rempe, he doesn't have that same effect on the lineup. He
Right.
doesn't. And that's the thing. So
and he doesn't deserve the ice time over Adam Edstrom, who's playing much better than him.
No, I wouldn't play him over Edstrom. No, not at all. We've got some other good questions in here, though. Do we think the Miller trade makes the Rangers stop exploring trades for Kreider? I don't think Kreider was ever seriously being moved unless the wheels really like fully fell off.
I think Kreider's more of an off-season thing. I think as soon as that they really made the push back towards the playoffs, Kreider became an off-season one. He's going to get moved. There's no way.
I agree, but contingent on where the Rangers are. For instance, if they do fall off a little bit, and at the deadline maybe they have a point deficit that Drury feels it's unlikely to be made up, he maybe could trade Kreider. Like if the Rangers were 7 points out of a playoff spot at the deadline, I don't think trading Kreider is unreasonable. I mean, why wouldn't you at that point? I mean, given his age, even if you were to get in, being that he's getting older, you may want to look at making that move eventually someday anyway. So if the Rangers were 7 points out of a playoff spot at the deadline, I could see Drury moving Kreider, because why not recoup assets?
And also, teams are going to look for power play help and specialty guys like that anyway. They look for depth forwards and depth defensemen, but also if you can nab the guy that's got the most tip-in goals since 2014, I think it is, you would include him.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing them move Kreider midseason. I really do. I think that's an off-season move, and that's a big move to make for this team. I don't know. I don't see it. It's something about like him and his tenure with this team, and if they really decide to go in a different direction and move on from like Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, I think those guys are moved in the offseason, if anything. I don't see it right now. So, I mean, all right, this is actually a great target, Brant Clark. This is the guy that I would be looking at next if I'm the Rangers. You get a puck mover, and you could either have him or Schneider play left side, because Schneider's played left side before, and Clark's a right-handed shot. So you can have both. You could have either one of those guys play right side, left side, and then you get a puck mover in, like a good puck mover in, because Makanainen's been okay, but Makanainen he's the furthest thing from irreplaceable. So
yeah,
I would
Yeah, but you're not getting a 21-year-old Brent Clark for Chris Kreider though. The Kings aren't moving.
No, I'm not saying Chris Kreider.
Oh,
I'm
because there
saying
was a
him
comment that was
highly.
highlighted said Clark Kreider. I thought he
Yeah,
was
I just pulled up the comment because
Oh,
I like the idea of Clark.
yeah.
I don't think Clark is going to cost a ton. Though. I don't. I'm not. I mean, the guy just got scratched. So.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but he is 21 years old and was leading the Kings in points as a defenseman, so they're not going to give him away. I think he's going to get a pretty good package if he's moved.
You got this question from Evan here. Do you think Drury would be allowed to make this type of move if he was on his way out? I mean, I think he's been given. I think he's on a hot seat personally. I do. I think this is the type of move you make when you know you want to save your season. I think this is the type of move you make when you know you want to save your job. But I really do think that it was the move that they had to make because they were getting a quality player at a pretty cheap rate or return rather. So they went ahead and they made that move. If you want to talk about a franchise altering move, that's a different story. But I don't think this is that type of move. I think this is a guy that you can facilitate a culture change with, and you have him for term. Like this is not Huberdeau and Uyghur for Kachuk. If that was that type of move, then I would say, hey, you know what? Maybe Drury's not on a hot seat at that point, and because that type of move is not something you make when you're kind of on your way out. So, yeah, this one from Mario. Do you see resurgence of Seth Jones? Could the Rangers get Seth Jones? No.
You don't want to go for Seth Jones.
No.
No, his name's out there, but I don't think the Rangers would be a landing spot for him if Chicago moves him.
No, I think there's too much salary there. Like even if you send Ryan Lindgren the other way, I also think Jones is a right-handed shot too. I think they want a lefty, and I just don't think he fits. I think he's another one that plays very much. Yeah, he's a right-handed shot. I mean, would he be an upgrade over the other defensemen they have right now? Yeah, I have my reservations about him and concerns. So.
I do have to agree. I think Keandre Miller needs to go. I think there's just too many mistakes. I said this actually from the beginning of the year. I would not be surprised if the Rangers moved him for veteran defenseman to help them try to win at the deadline. Go all in with it because Miller's still going to have Miller and his age and his size. Took the teller by surprise. Sorry, I've been listening.
Okay, Billy the Kid, relax.
All right, but it's his age and his size is going to be attracted to somebody out there, and they're going to jump all over him, and they're going to hope that he's going to be sort of like just like Seth Jones. He blew up in Columbus over Nashville, and
Seth Jones is a more polished defenseman. I watched a lot of Seth Jones going back to the 2013 World Juniors and even his play in junior. And like when he came up, he was a bit more polished. You could see that there where it's like he's got flashes of being a legitimate star. Keandre Miller has top 4, maybe even number 2 potential. I just don't see that same potential in Miller that I saw in Jones back when he was younger. Like, remember, he got traded for Ryan Johansson. Like, I mean, if they trade Miller, I think they could get a nice return, but I just don't see that same potential, to be honest with you. Sorry. I like this comment, though, from Jay. Brandstrom is the Jones replacement. Yeah, he's got a little more experience. He's a little bigger, higher pedigree. I wouldn't expect a lot from Eric Brandstrom, though.
Now, Vancouver had him on waivers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, no one claimed him.
Yeah. Evan had to go and talk about Eric Robinson. You knew that was coming. VC is a slower Tyler Mott. Okay.
By the way, it's great to see Ranger Central still in the air since he's playing for the Islanders at the same time. Hi.
Alan, I don't think Nelson's getting a huge haul because of Miller. He has nothing to do with JT Miller. You're talking about an impending UFA and a player with 5 years of term at a very reasonable $8 million left. I mean, I'm sorry, it's an apples to oranges comparison, buddy. It really is. So
Brock Nelson's the pretty much the best rental available on a lot of the top boards. That's what he's getting at. That he's
no, but he's using Miller as a comparable, and that's not a comparable. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. There's a decade difference, and Miller's still an RFA.
It's actually a really good question for Chris T because this is somebody I would bring in for a third.
Wait, did you say Miller's an RFA? What are you talking about?
Who, me?
Keandre Miller?
Oh, Keandre Miller. Oh, Mark.
Yeah.
I thought Mark was talking about JT Miller, RFA.
No. All right. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I was on the wrong Miller, not you.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I was like,
do you think, Phil? Do you think? Actually, no. Let me throw it to you, Anthony. Do you think Yanni Gord's surgery changes his trade status?
yeah, I think they said he's not going to play again until right up until he's going to be out until the trade deadline, basically. So, yeah, I mean it could. I mean he still could get traded. Being out from now until then affects it a little bit, but I still think he's a strong candidate to be traded.
Oh, he's definitely going to get dealt. Seattle is 8 points back of wildcard 2, which is Calgary. And Calgary actually has 3 games in hand on them. They're not looking good. They're a lot closer to teams like Anaheim and Nashville than they are Vancouver and Utah. So I'll tell you right now, I don't see Seattle making the playoffs. I think that Yanni Gord gets dealt, and I think he's somebody that could, I think, get like maybe a 3rd round pick and a decent prospect.
He's in the final year of his 5.166.
Yeah, and Seattle can retain. I'm pretty sure Seattle has all their retention slots, so they can retain, and they might be called on other players as well to retain salary. So I definitely see Yanni Gord getting dealt. If I'm the Rangers, that's a guy I would look at. I understand the injury concern though, because you never know how he's going to come back from that injury and be. But Yanni Gord, I still think he's definitely getting dealt.
Well, at least the Rangers could trade next year's 1st round pick. Guys, eventually that credit card bill is due. You can't. It's not going to be forever. So,
Jay wants to see what happens with Zegras.
It's going to be interesting, but if you're going to ask on the aspect of whether or not the Rangers should go after him, absolutely not. Not the player the Rangers need.
He's got 1 year left after this, and then he's a restricted free agent. I wouldn't be shocked if he's dealt somewhere. I mean, that's been an ongoing thing with him and Pat Verbeek. We've talked about that, I feel like, for 2 years now with him and Verbeek, ever since going to that contract negotiation, and they gave him that very, very interesting bridge deal, if you will.
Anthony Lon's saying right here that Winnipeg, Colorado, Minnesota, and Washington, they're all going to be asking about Brock Nelson. First off, every team's going to be asking about
Anthony
Brock Nelson.
just answered that in the chat too.
Yeah, he has a ton of interest. But again, they're 4 points out of a playoff spot playing Tampa Bay with a chance to get to within 2 if they win. Lou's not trading Brock Nelson, at least right now. As I said, a lot can happen between now and the deadline. If they fall back to a point where they're 7-8 points out, then yes, Lou will look at trading Brock Nelson. But for now, as of right now, where they stand, 6-game win streak, 4 points out, they're not moving Nelson. I know that obviously disappoints a lot of Islander fans. It's just how it is. He's not being sold unless they have a real big point deficit come the trade deadline. That's just how it's going to go.
Going back to what I think it was Carson, his comment just now.
Yeah, the Rangers need a
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
Yeah, what they really need is they need Rick James on the payroll so he could walk up and say, "What did the 5 fingers say to the face?" Slap. So maybe they would actually get it all together.
The melt's gone bad.
Guys, I keep saying this over and over again about the Four Nations face-off and why it's sort of really important to Mika Zibanejad. If he can get going with Sweden, come back with some confidence, maybe that changes around things. Because right now, just not that great. Snark, you should have heard when I accidentally had the Mark Goldman out last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh my god.
Those were awful times.
Oh, if you're gonna start doing Christopher Walken, I think I'm gonna leave.
That'll be a way to get everybody off.
Yeah, it's a good question, Johnny Red. I mean, I've obviously have not even just questioned, but outright bashed this group for quite some time and the way that they acted. And there's no excuse for them quitting the way they did earlier this year. I couldn't stand what they did, but yeah, oh man, I think this is where they get that jolt with JT Miller. I really do. I think he comes in and his alpha male personality is going to be the shot in the arm that they need. Because I think this group has lacked confidence for quite some time. I think they are mentally fragile. And I do think that Drury kind of putting everybody on notice really got into their heads. I know Mark is groaning, sitting there waiting for something to say. So I'll let Mark do his thing.
Since when is JT Miller Mark Messier in 1992? Everybody's talking about him like
he doesn't have to be Mark Messier in 92 for him to do this though.
But Phil, look, I'm sorry. I need more maybe because I didn't see this the first time around. Maybe you're right.
JT Miller wasn't in a leadership position the first time around. And he's matured since then.
I hope you're right. I hope everybody's right. Because after all, we talked about this leadership grip for the longest time. And it's funny, Phil, because you were ahead of this so far ahead of everybody. You've been bashing them all the way back to the All Things Rangers days. And this is one of those things. If Miller is the leader everybody is going to expect him to be, then maybe finally a reunion works. But again, reunions don't work, so I'm not happy about that. But never mind that. Doesn't matter. It's over now. But the way people have been talking about JT Miller on Twitter, you think he's going to come out and guarantee a win and go raise the Stanley Cup. Yeah, it's close to that.
Let's not bring up that season because this current season seems a lot like that one right now.
No, I think the addition of Miller is going to mean that they're going to really work hard in the offseason to get Zibanejad to waive his no movement clause. That's just
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on that because I think one of two things is happening. He doesn't get his act together, and then that ends up happening, or he gets his act together, and the Rangers try to win with the center depth that they have. Because I mean, if you're looking at 1, 2, 3 down the middle, and those are your three centers, that's as good center depth as there is in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, if Zibanejad gets his game together, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that they tried to send him to Vancouver and he wouldn't waive tells me that they are actively, or at least are open to trading him.
Yep.
I think it probably makes sense if they could do it. So
yeah, and that's kind of why I was on board with this trade. When the rumors started coming around, one of the first things I said was that one, you're bringing in an alpha male, you're bringing in an absolute bulldog, and then two, if it doesn't, and he clashes with Pettersson, and that's why I mentioned the Pettersson comparison before in terms of their demeanor. If that ends up happening here, because like I said, JT Miller is a different player, and emotionally, mentally, and physically from where he was as a New York Ranger. I mean, let's just say they clash. Zibanejad's probably on the way out because they've already wanted it. And JT Miller, I don't want to say bully, but if they end up clashing, Mika Zibanejad may want to just leave at that point, especially if they also look to deal Chris Kreider.
He may. Yep. I mean, I could see why he didn't want to waive for Vancouver, but there could be other places that are attractive to him that he waived for.
I don't know about a Nirvana reunion, but I guess that was Chris and Dave getting back together.
I guess so. I don't know.
I mean, because obviously Kurt's nowhere to be found anymore.
Could have been Courtney.
6 feet under.
And look, yeah, I think you're right about that, Anthony. I think it's now you get it to the point. And again, I made this point with you. Mika's got to want out. And if Mika starts believing, maybe I can move on from this. I still just need to see it. I need to see it where he's going to say, I'm going to waive my no trade clause.
I mean, guys do it all the time. I
didn't forget that, Jay. I actually said that before. I said before when I first hopped on, one of the first things I said was that they played together. And that also that Miller and Kreider had played together for a very long time.
And on the same line. It used to be the American line, Stepan, Miller, and Kreider.
Doesn't matter at this point, David. If this team had not quit and Zibanejad had not, had this massive drop-off in his game, the general manager isn't going to side with Mika Zibanejad.
Anthony, here's a question for you. Alon's asking, is Dobson getting 8 by 8 by 5?
I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about Dobson getting traded. I think Lou would do it if he was getting back a really good player, but I think he'll probably get extended. I think he'll get extended. And as far as the price, I don't know. I mean, he's had obviously the year he had isn't anything like last year, but I still think him and his agent are gonna try to get him paid like some of the other young defensemen have. So I think 8 years is a possibility. Maybe between $7 and $8 million. That's what I would do, but his agent probably want a little more.
I actually think this is the exact deal he'll get. 8 by 8.5.
Okay.
You got to remember, cap's going up.
Yeah.
Dobson at a 5-point season.
70.
Chris T, I think he's going above 8. I really do. I don't think he's going to approach like Bouchard or Fox territory or Seth Jones territory, but I think Dobson is getting 8+ for sure. I would say I think 8.5 is probably the highest. Thinking about it now, I want to say 8.25.
And Wicked, to answer this question, I don't think that there is a number the Islanders could be. Oh, sorry. There it is. I don't think there's a number the Islanders could be far enough out. They just made their case for a playoff team.
Every general manager has different philosophies on that, So it's not really a set number for every general manager. But me personally, I would say, trade deadline time, but by early March, if you're 7 points, 7 points or more out, I think you got to sell, because at that point, I think there's not enough ground to make up to squeeze in if you're that much out. So, just giving Islander fans the warning shot. If they're 4 points out come March 6th, which is they are now, he's not selling. So he's not going to do it.
Anthony, I don't know if he's selling at 6 points out.
He might
at
sell
trade deadline. 7's a different story.
What?
At trade deadline, 7's.
I don't know. I think he'd have to be closer to 10 for them to sell. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I think being 7 points out right now is hard. So, but 7 points out on March 6th is harder. So I don't know. I think it's still can go either way. It's just still so much time, but he's not going to sell unless they're way out of it. And it's just Ireland fans keep beating the drum about Dobson, Palmieri. I'm sorry, not Dobson, Nelson, Palmieri. It's just he's not moving any of them if they're close to a playoff spot. So.
Unity.
Same thing for the Rangers. If the Rangers are 6 points out of a playoff spot come the trade deadline, Drury's not as stubborn as Lou, but I don't think Drury would sell if he was 6 points out.
No, I think six is something you can.
I don't think he would.
I really do think 6 you can make up with a decent hot streak, and the teams in front of you losing 1 or 2 games. That's really. That's the better question. If you ask
another question, I think, I mean, honestly, I think not a rental. He wouldn't. I think I said this last week. I don't think he would do a rental. But if the Islanders are 3 points out of a playoff spot, I think he would, if the right deal and he got a player that's under team control. Yes, I think I think he would buy.
I think I might have to agree with Mario here. I don't think Pettersson's being moved, though. I'll tell you that right now. Besser is an impending UFA, so I would probably throw that one off the board just because of what Anthony just said. Because
he would need to know that Besser is going to sign an extension. That's the only way he would do it.
Yeah, the same way that Horvat was.
Yeah.
Horvat. He pretty much had the extension in place for Horvat.
Yeah, pretty much.
And now, literally, right after the trade. So
yeah.
I would definitely, and this is really it. State of Surf. I'll have to go highlight and then the chat moved. Sorry. Why would the Canucks trade Pettersson now? I don't think they're going to. I think they got the return they wanted from Miller, and from what Rick Dallowall said, like when this started heating up like a week and change ago, right before the Rangers almost got him the first time. They identified that JT Miller was the guy that they wanted to move. That was and yet J.E. Zegras is not from Long Island. He's from upstate New York.
Yeah, and also too, I don't think Zegras is a Lou kind of player.
No, but then again, Tony D'Angelo isn't.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't think Tony D was a Lou kind of player either.
Point on Mark.
But if you look up on hockey,
he's from New York, but he's upstate New York.
I think when you look it up on Hockey DB,
it's Bedford. No, Christine's right. I know it's Bedford.
Yeah, Bedford. Yeah. Which I can't even point out Bedford on the map.
You're thinking of Medford, which is closer to Anthony.
Yeah. See, as far as Besser, there's a lot of smoke that, similar to Nelson, there's a lot of smoke that he wants to play in Minnesota with Besser. So
yeah, Besser is.
I
think I'm pretty sure he's from Minnesota too.
He is, yeah. So I don't know if he would sign an extension with a team that wasn't Minnesota, but I don't know if that would scare some teams off.
I'm with John Bobbio on this. I think this breaks, and that's why I said it before. I do think that Drury's on a bit of a hot seat. I do. So. I root for guys from New York.
Yeah,
I know. I actually have friends that are personally friends with Sonny Milano. He's a decent kid, nice guy. I just don't think there's a lot there. I think he's like an okay bottom 6 scorer. I just don't think that he's gonna have he's never gonna live up to his draft position. I'll tell you that right now. But I mean, he's still a useful player. Just he hasn't really played this year. So he's only got 3 games after having a 23-point season and only 49 games last year, and then a couple of 30-point seasons. So.
Jay is asking if Pittsburgh is Killjoy, yeah. But Jay is asking if Pittsburgh's starting a soft rebuild. Yeah. My question is, do they move Evgeny Malkin. But we'll find out.
I really wonder who kind of goes after Evgeny Malkin at this point, though.
That's a good point too.
Like he's a shell of himself right now, and he's
Chris
got a
Letang.
very high cap hit. He was just re-upped recently.
Yeah,
and that deal is literally aging like rancid milk, like
in the Arizona sun.
Like I don't understand how they gave him that type of contract. I mean, he's got 1 year left after this at $6.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he's hurt, it's one thing, but he's also 38 going on 39, and he's just not the player he once was. He's got 34 points in 47 games. He's just, I don't see it there anymore. I mean, could they? Yeah, but I mean, Malkin at 6.1, a guy who really doesn't push play at 5v5 anymore, and he's a liability defensively. I don't see it. He's slowed down quite a bit too, and like in today's day and age, you've got to be able to skate. Like he could still skate, but he's slowed down considerably. So
that's interesting. Pedersen's no move clause kicks in at the end of this year.
Yeah, who put that before? Oh, Johnny Red did. Sarah Valley says that if Pedersen doesn't step up now, if Miller gone, he'll be traded before his no movement clause kicks in. I think while that's possible, I wouldn't hold your breath on it. I really wouldn't, because I think Vancouver, I don't think they're ready to kind of throw in the towel in this core yet. I don't. I get Rutherford's not happy the way that Drury was not happy, but I don't see it yet. I don't. I think they're going to give Pedersen a chance to turn things around. And I mean, listen, I get it. It's the same situation the Rangers were in with Derek Stepan in 2017, where they wanted to deal him before that no movement clause kicked in, and then that new $6.5 million deal that he had just signed, I think the year before or whatever, that was kicking in. But
yeah.
I don't see it. I don't. Sure, there may be a possibility, but where are you getting a 26-year-old point per game center or better? That's my point.
I think
the only I'll say one more thing and I'll let you go, Anthony. The only way I see this happening is if Vancouver has determined that Quinn Hughes is not re-upping with them. Like they think that they have absolutely no chance of re-upping. But he's got 2 more years after this deal, or after this year on his deal. And he doesn't have trade protection. So I really do think that they're going to try to make this work. And if they thought that they were going to trade Elias Pettersson, like if that was really something that was like at the top of or even not totally in the back of their minds, but not at the forefront, why would you go and trade for Marcus Pettersson then at that point?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I think it's still possibilities dealt for a couple of reasons. One, I think sometimes in a situation, and even though Miller may have been the aggressor, however you want to look at it, I think sometimes when you have the issue they had, even though one person is gone, I think sometimes the team may just feel it's just better to just get rid of all the shit and start fresh, like get rid of both of them and kind of move on going forward. The second part of that is, while they were having all these trade talks with Miller, they had meaningful trade discussions with other teams too that may have gotten down to part of the road where they were fairly serious. So if they already talked to some teams about groundworks for certain deals, I know the trade almost Carolina, but Pierre LeBrun said that, Columbus was having kind of preliminary discussions with them that might have got to the point where they're taking it to the next step. So I think if they can get a package from a team that and Columbus is a good candidate for it. Like if they were to get Kent Johnson and I don't know, maybe that's Kent Johnson and Cole Sillinger or someone along the lines of that, and they view that young players that have good value on their own and that they're not going to take a serious step back from, I think they still might move him. But they're not going to give him away, though. I'm not saying that. They're not going to give him away, but I think there's still a chance that he gets moved.
I understand. Again, and I said this before to you guys, I think the only reason why they were really considering, there were two reasons why they were considering moving him. One, if they couldn't get the return that they wanted for Miller, and two, if there was a young star player, a young comparable talent that could go back and return. Natchez was that talent. Who else is there? As much as you could talk about Kent Johnson or someone like that, and Cole Sillinger, I don't even think is even close to that range. Kent Johnson would be a little closer if you ask me. But who's available that would go back and return now? I mean, is Tage Thompson going to be available from Buffalo? That's the only way that I could see it, is if it's the Buffalo deal and it's Tage Thompson going in return. That's it.
The Buffalo deal was rumored to be Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram.
That's Bowen Byram. Yeah, no, I don't see that as enough. I don't. I really think that they were willing to do that if Miller was staying. I don't see it. I don't, because you deal both of them. What is that saying? We're giving up on this season. We're giving up on this core. Okay, then most likely kiss Quinn Hughes goodbye.
Well, think about it.
Like, deal for Quinn Hughes then. The
speculation is that Brock Besser isn't going to resign. That's why there's talk they're going to trade him. So you trade Miller, you're going to be trading Brock Besser. Maybe they feel at that point might as well trade Pedersen too and kind of start over. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I still just personally feel that he still could be traded, whether it's now or in the offseason before his no movement kicks in. We'll see who's right. Oh, hold on here.
Yeah, we got a breaking trade.
Telling you, Four Nations teams using it as a as a mini deadline.
Yeah, Kevin Weeks is saying Mikael Granlund to Dallas.
Granlund, I believe he's having a pretty good season in San Jose.
He's about a point per game on San Jose of all teams. I think that production will probably drop off a little bit in Dallas.
Because they're not going to use him the same way they did in San Jose.
No,
Mark, do you like Granlund?
45 points in 52 games. He was a point per game earlier on in the year. Having a very good year. It gives them a center. Tyler Sagan's going to be out for a bit. So,
Mark,
do you like Granlund?
Or is he on the Ebola list?
Yeah. No, he's not on the Ebola list. No. No, that's I mean, look, speaking about locker room Ebola, I got to hand it to him. He's having a pretty good season so far, PLD.
So now I wonder, I just want to pose this question here because I think, if Dallas is trading for Granlund, who's a center, and he makes $5 million, you got to assume that takes them out of a Brock Nelson running then too.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about Brock Nelson not being moved, so I don't really think that matters.
I know. I'm just saying Dallas has been a team that insiders have brought up when speaking about Brock Nelson.
Now, this is what Evan's bringing up right here. Probably an indicator that the Islanders probably aren't going to move Nelson.
See, that's what I meant.
Dallas is technically over the cap right now because Sagan is not on LTIR. Neither is Miro Heiskanen or Nils Lundqvist. They're all on regular IR.
I'm curious to see what the return here is going to be on Granlund. UFA.
Got to be somebody with an actual NHL player going back.
$5 million.
I don't know how Dallas manages the cap otherwise.
You're talking about a player from Dallas going back to San Jose, like a salary
roster player. Yeah, there's got to be a roster player going back because Dallas is over the cap.
I got to look at Dallas. I'm
looking on cap wages right now. Cap hit. $88,224,574. Cap space negative $224,574. Contracts 44 out of 50. Roster 21 out of 23. Carryover bonuses $2,595,407.
Yeah, I'm looking, but who? I mean, they're not trading. Obviously, I'm not going to even mention the obvious guys are not moving, but like, I mean, I can't. Sam Steele, he only makes 1.2 million. I don't know.
Donov?
Huh?
The Donov? Maybe.
Isn't he having a good year though? What, I mean, he's got. I thought
I
at
mean,
least
2.25. That would make sense. That would kind of keep them. I mean, I'm just surprised that they're.
Dodonov has 13 goals, 27 points. Yeah, I mean,
You could move him.
Yeah. Is he?
Because their centers are really
Honestly, yeah, maybe he's an expiring contract, so San Jose probably is attractive. He's not.
Yeah.
Gonna be, yeah.
And San Jose could flip him.
Yeah, they could.
Center, Sagan, Hintz is a center. Duchesne can play center. Wyatt Johnson's a center. Maverick Bork is a center. I think has played wing. Stankoven can play center, but has played wing. Oscar Beck. Colin Blackwell is another one who has played center, but is really a wing. I mean, they have options that they could throw to the wing if they want to move. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just trying to mention that to him.
Yes, yeah.
I haven't had a chance to message him yet.
No.
And this one right here, yeah, very excited. JT's back.
Yeah, Mark is very excited. JT Miller is on Mark's Ebola list.
Not exactly the Ebola list, but it's just again, reunions don't work. I've never seen them work.
That's actually a good thing for a good comment from Chris T here. There definitely could be salary retention too. Because hold on, let me see what San Jose's situation is like retention wise, because I think they're already using one retention slot, if I'm correct. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Do they have those on there?
No, actually no. Oh yeah, they don't have retention slots.
Yeah,
they can't retain salary.
How do you know they don't have retention
one
slots,
year of
by the way?
retention left. Eric Carlson's got 2 years of retention left after this year. And Tomas Hertl seems like he's retained salary until the end of time. Oh, my God. Oh, man. I don't understand how Vegas got San Jose to retain 1.3875 on Hertl for as long as they've retained it for. Oh, my God. Yeah, a third team is probably getting involved. Unless Dallas is sending back someone like the Donov. Don't be shocked if the Rangers decide to try to Panarin to a team of his choice. You know what? After the offseason, I wouldn't be shocked one bit. That wouldn't shock me.
And we were saying this about a month ago, that Panarin would be their biggest trade chip right now.
Yeah. That's somebody that's going to get you quite a bit still. Even 1 year left. That's an off-season deal, though. That type of salary is just too much to move mid-season.
Lou just said, I don't care about Bridgeport's record. I care that the players are getting ready to play here, even though they're not ready. Team is 10-26-2. Look, but Lou's got a point. All that matters is that you're getting the players ready to come here.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, you want to win championships at the AHL level, but yeah, it would have been Barabanov instead of freaking Wenberg.
By the way, where is Barabanov now?
He's still in San Jose.
I thought he was a UFA last year.
No, he's
again, yeah. I know Anthony's stepping out for a little bit, Phil, but I got maybe 10 more minutes left in me.
Oh no, he isn't there anymore. Where did he go? Oh no, he's still a free agent. He hasn't signed anywhere.
And yeah, I get what you're saying with this one on what kind of message does it say to Bridgeport ticket holders? That's a good question.
That doesn't really matter all that much to them. Oh, Barabanov signed the KHL. Okay, AK Bars Kazan.
All right, so but with him, but with him, he has to wait for the KHL season to end before he even thinks about signing with an NHL team.
Yeah. I would say it's not really likely that he'll be over. I mean, could it happen? Sure. But I think he would have to I think he might have to pass through waivers.
Mm.
Just like Tony did. So let's see. What do I think a return package of Panarin would be for Panarin? Not really sure. I would say it's going to have to at least have a first round pick and a top prospect in it.
Yeah,
maybe even a youngish roster player. So,
and again, that would be something that would have to happen like either now or in the off season.
It can't happen now.
If it gets, I know it can't happen now. It's not going to. I'm just saying because as soon as it's next season starts, his value drops.
It would have to be something that would happen sometime in the off season, whether it's draft night, whether it's after July 1st. It's why would we be trading Panarin? Let's just say things go south and they determine that they want to move him. That's right. That's really the hypothetical that
we're just going with the hypothetical. We're not saying anything is imminent or that we would do that right now.
I kind of disagree with you here. State of survival. He's already built up a legacy. I don't think he has anything to worry about.
Lou was the original salary cap.
He was when things were going on early on, and like right when they came back from that lockout, Lou was finding ways to finagle it. He kind of helped write the damn thing up. So, yeah.
And when guys got a little bit too big, Lou moved them out. Look at Bill Guerin.
No, Mario. No, we talked about this before, and it's been mentioned, I think, like 3 or 4 times in the chat.
We go back to it a lot.
No, you're not moving him before that extension kicks in. Sorry.
Oof. That's Alon. Wow, that's not great news.
Yeah, maybe Mika playing against lesser competition will help. But that's the thing. You bring in a guy like JT Miller or any other highly skilled player to come play in your top 6, and whether it's center or wing, it moves other players down the lineup, and the responsibility kind of gets weighed off of them a little bit. So JT Miller is going to come here and he's going to bear responsibility. So it's not like he's doing anything different from what he was in Vancouver. He's just not going to be playing with the guy that he considered an antagonist. And he's going to now be playing with one of his best friends and 2 guys that he was teammates with for a while.
And I agree with that philosophy, Phil. I'm just not seeing it. Although right now I am starting to think Miller, Cooley. I'm trying to think of who to put on that.
This is what I said before, David. I said that you could take Mika, put him on the wing, because I don't think he can play center anymore. And I would trade for a third line center. Yanni Gord would be near the top of my list, even with the injury. Johnny, his best friend is Trocheck. Trocheck literally posted an Instagram story of JT Miller, and I think with like a glass of wine in front of them last night, and put like a heart on it because they're from the same area. So they grew up playing together. They were on the 2013 World Juniors team together. That won gold for the U.S. with Seth Jones and some others. Jimmy Vesey was actually on that team too. So there are a bunch of guys that were, they've been friends for a while, very, very long time.
Do you put Kreider back with Zibanejad? I think if they could find somebody, they got to get a guy that's sort of like a Matt Zuccarello type of playmaker. You can't get a grinded out guy like Riley Smith. Am I alone thinking Riley Smith has actually played better the last month? But
no, he's played okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say he lived up to his salary so far, but
no,
he played okay. So
those are interesting combinations. I'm not sure if I put Miller or Panarin right now. Here's the thing. I've been saying it along, and I should have flashed that. That was Evans.
They're saying Kreider, Miller, Smith. I'm guessing Mikey is talking about warm-up lines that Vince, Molly, and Colin and others have put together. Staple, Peter Bow, or I know Dennis Gorman covers for Colin when he's traveling, and but Dennis was covering yesterday for Colin's travel. So I'd imagine Colin is on the beat this morning.
Yeah. But do you trade Riley Smith? Honestly, you want a player like Riley Smith. I wouldn't trade him. They just need to find a place to use him.
Yeah, I you know what? Honestly, if he was more of a bottom six option,
like I said, if Riley Smith is on your first line, the Rangers have a problem. If Riley Smith is on your third line, Rangers are in great shape.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Molly tweeted a quote from Drury about how they aren't done. I'm actually going to pull that up right now and just read it for everybody here. Okay. Ask Chris Drury if there's more New York Ranger moves he wants to make before the deadline or if he's comfortable after this JT Miller acquisition. We've got 5 games before the break. So excited to see JT getting here and getting in our lineup today, see what he could do before the Four Nations break. Again, I'm always open to thoughts and suggestions and exploring ways on how we can be better, and we'll continue to do so up until the break and as we head into the deadline.
Well, I just wonder about how the Four Nations break, if they're maybe Anthony's right. Maybe they use the Four Nations break as the actual trade deadline. So,
no, I think they're going to still make moves after the Four Nations.
Yeah, definitely the truth is that, but still, it's like just.
I don't think Kaliev really has much of a place. I don't. I don't see it. I know he's really kind of still coming back from an injury, but I look at him as a poor man's version of Brandon Peary. A guy that really does one thing, and I don't think he's even great at it, and that's shooting. That's it. And at least Brandon Peary, when he was in the lineup for the Rangers, he was scoring at a pretty high rate for a guy that was getting limited time. So, no, Molly didn't speculate on any trade because that's not what Drury said. Drury just said that he would be open to still making moves, and it's not that there was a trade in place, but it's and Kaliev is riding the pine today.
Yeah,
and I think we're looking at the beginning of the end for Arthur Kaliev unless something happens.
It ends up being
no. Velarde isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, you're not getting Gabe Velarde.
Unless you have a time machine and you want to go back to the 2017 draft, that's the only way that Velarde is going anywhere.
Phil, I kind of posed this question the other night, and I'll do it again right now just for the audience. And that's, is this trade deadline going to be more active because more teams are in it? Or is it going to be like almost less active because more teams are in it and they don't want to give up any assets to other teams? Like usually you'd have at least like maybe 5-6 teams that are not going to make the playoffs, and then they would end up feeding the better teams, like the Sharks did today, sending Gradlin to Texas, yes, but to Dallas. Or you're gonna get teams like Montreal that they ain't giving up anybody anyway.
I think it's too early to tell. I just don't think that you could sit there and say, oh, hey, this is going to happen now. This is going to happen. I think we're too far away. I think this break in play really kind of complicates things as well, because a lot of the teams are trying to get deals done before the Four Nations. You have a lot more teams trying to pull off Jim Rutherford type early bird specials. Funny enough, the Rangers dealt with Jim Rutherford, but you're. I just don't. I don't know if I can really gauge that as of right now, just because of the fact that there are so many teams that are still in it. And there are a lot of teams that people didn't think would be in it that are in it. I mean, look at the wild card right now. I mean, Tampa Bay is kind of where we thought they were going to be. Ottawa is in a playoff spot right now. Who the hell thought that was going to be?
Yeah.
Columbus is in wild card 1. Who thought that? Boston is right outside of wild card. Detroit's right outside. The Islanders are not too far off. The Rangers are 5 points back. Montreal is still within screaming distance. And Philadelphia is tied with the Rangers, even though the Rangers have 3 games in hand. And then Pittsburgh is only 7 points back of Tampa. I don't think Pittsburgh's making it, but for me, they look like they're starting to sell off, which is smart of Kyle Dubas, if you ask me. I don't think that team's good enough. And I think they're gonna, with losing Marcus Pettersson, I think they're gonna fall further back now, because now you traded your best defensive defenseman away. So. I mean,
by the way, Phil, can you make any sense out of the Kuzmenko deal?
Fresh starts. I'm surprised that Philadelphia wanted to get rid of Farabee, though. I thought Farabee was a very good winger for them, and I thought he was close to breaking out. But Morgan Frost had shown significant progress, but Farabee, he's fallen off this year kind of hard. Like after a 50-point year, he comes and he gives you this. I really wonder if him and Tortorella had a falling out. I really do, because for a young guy like that to go from a 50-point season to this is just kind of, it's an eye opener. And then Morgan Frost, I mean, he has 2 40-point seasons in a row, and now he's also 25 points. Something tells me that. Whoa! Leon Bichsel, a part of the freaking Granlund deal? That's a lot to give up for Dallas. I don't know if I like that deal for Dallas. I really don't. And that's a first rounder right there, and a recent one too. First rounder, 18th overall in 2022. I mean, he's got some massive size, though. He's like 6'6", like 220 pounds. It's speculation by a beat reporter, but I mean, if he's going in that deal, oh man, that's going to drive up the prices on rentals around.
Phil, you gotta love the job that Mike Rear's done in San Jose.
Now Pagnotta is saying it. Uh-oh.
Mike Rear has just turned over that roster so well, and he's really restocking the cupboard. And I mean, he's just got 2 contracts left. He's got to get out from under Logan Couture and Marc-Edouard Vlasic, and he really changed over that team.
Yeah, give him credit there. Yeah, following up on the week's report, Sharks and Stars have been talking for some time on Granlund. Things intensified last night. San Jose has an interest in Leon Bichsel. We'll see if he's in the mix or not.
Sean, overall, I'm not exactly a big fan of it. Philk is. However, they got him, and now they got to use him. And
yeah,
it's the best way to say it. Look, Philk, I think a lot of fans are expecting him to be the 100-point player that he was a couple years ago, or the extremely productive player he's been in Vancouver. I'm very skeptical.
Okay, I'm listen. I'm not expecting 100 points. I think he could be anywhere from 80 to a 100-point player.
Which
100
would
or
still be
plus.
good.
And I still think if you get 85 points and you get good two-way play out of him, I think this trade's worth it.
Yeah.
I do think Calgary won that trade. I
agree with you. Calgary 100% won that trade.
Kuzmenko's shooting percentage in his first year really sticks out to me because he was shooting at like 27%, I think it was, in his first year here with Vancouver. Well, let me look that up. Yeah, 27.3. He led the NHL in shooting percentage in 22-23 when he had his 39 goals, 74-point debut season. I don't know if he gets back to that. I just think that he's a good player. Him and Michkov are supposedly friends. So that's something that I would look into. Maybe as a strong point for Philadelphia, you get a Russian guy in that can help out the young Russian kid. But Tortorella's got to stop benching Michkov every time he makes a mistake or something like that. So,
hey Phil, I'm gonna actually sign off in about a minute. How long do you think? Are you gonna keep going for a little bit longer? Or?
Maybe a little longer. I have stuff that I have to get done with my car today. So,
yeah. Hey guys, sorry, I've been working a lot, and I would like to actually spend some time with my wife. So
yeah, so, no, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I mean, yeah, and I'm already on fumes. State of survival. Thank you very much, everybody. Once again, if you're new to this channel, make sure that you're tuning in. We do a weekly show, usually every Wednesday at 5:40. Looking at the possibility of doing more shows also during the week as well. But Brandstrom is going to the AHL.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
All right. Well, we
spend time with her during Four Nations.
well, because after all, that's the way you stay married, and you spend time together. So that's I would love to do that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. Join us, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on for a little bit, not too long, but I'll answer some more questions while Mark gets out. I don't know if Anthony's coming back, but
all right. Thank you guys. Talk to you later.
Oh man, that's funny. Bo Quick's 34. Yes, that was Brian Berard's number with the Islanders. So, Sweden Finland game equals date night. Maria will absolutely watch hockey with you, and I let's just say I kind of hung out and partied with Maria a little bit at the Stadium Series game. She could hold her own. Trust me on that. Let's see here. I just want to go through some of these, and thank you, Killjoy. I appreciate it. I don't see Brett to the Hawks in the offseason. I don't think he's going to go back to Chicago. Even if they were trading him, and again, this is hypothetical. We're not talking about actually him being dealt. We're really not. The Sweden-Finland game will be played with bubble wrapper on the boards. Came up with a potential Panarin trade for the offseason when we do the stream. I will share it and get thought. Okay. Did I really just see snoo in the chat? Come on, man. Sean, you're out of your mind. Oh. Yeah, I don't think Panarin is going anywhere. I get it. I'm not. I don't see him being moved. I don't see Lou moving him. I don't. I've wanted to put Lafreniere on power play 1, but there are other things that need to be sorted out. Power play 1 needs to be switched up big time. Needs to be switched up big time. Wow. This chat's insane right now. You guys are over the top with this stuff. I'm not even going to mention what's being mentioned in that chat right now. You guys are absolutely out of control. Oh my God. I don't think Mike Greer is overrated. I think he's doing an okay job. I think he got handed, just like Chris Drury got handed, kind of a jumbled mess of things, and he's trying to get things done. Okay, Friedman is confirming that Granlund's on the move, so let's take a look at what's going on there. Thankfully, I have notifications on for these guys. So he said this is happening. Okay. Here's an interesting one that Colin Stevenson just tweeted 3 minutes ago. Chris Drury on the JT Miller trade. He helps not just now, but moving forward. So, Evan, you were talking about the window shrinking before. I wouldn't say that. It was tough giving up Hedl and Mancini, but it was worth it to get Miller. I agree. He did talk to Miller's pal, Vincent Trocheck, beforehand, and the increase in cap played no part in the deal. I disagree with that last part. I disagree with that fully. And I'll say that because I look at that AAV, and that AAV is going to be a very good one for a while as long as Miller stays productive. I don't know if I would say they have no window, but the first part was that he helps not just now, but moving forward. Wait, CC is in the trade too? Oh, okay. So Cody CC. Wait. How is Dallas doing this then? Who's going back in return? I'm being told by people by Twitter that JPG has tripped. What? Who's yeah. I think you're coming across some people who are a little confused. I don't get that one either. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm kind of confused here because how does Dallas have they're in the red right now? Who's going back in return? Are they getting rid of Essa Lindell? I mean, he has a no movement clause, but they would have to move some serious salary to make this work. Who's going back the other way? You can't move Mason Marchment with the year that he's had. I mean, he had 27 points in 33 games. Yeah, I know. That's Anthony chiming in, by the way. That's not Mark. I can tell you that's Anthony. Anthony does this a bit. So that's not me. But that is definitely Anthony saying Heiskanen going on LTIR. I guess so. It's because they've got to. No, they don't have money parked on LTIR. They don't have anyone on LTIR right now. Check cap wages. Heiskanen's going to be out for a bit, but I don't unless the prognosis is that he's going to be out until the end of the year. I don't understand this. But I'll tell you right now, I don't know if Dallas is going to be able to make any other moves. Because I think Sagan's supposed to be back before the end of the year, from what I was told. But then again, could be wrong on that. Somebody pointed this out on Twitter. The Four Nations break. Well, that's basically what it is. The Olympic break did the same thing in 2006. So, happens. Dallas has to be moving. I mean, I think LTIR maybe it. Olympics next year too. Yeah, that's why a lot of Buffalo fans are upset that Chris Kreider and Vinny Trocheck made the Four Nations team over Tage Thompson. And I totally understand that, especially Kreider having the year that he's had. He's been terrible this year. Yeah, LTIR or Dumba. I could see Dumba going back the other way. I was very, very skeptical about signing Matt Dumba to a 3.75 per mil deal. Like, I'm sorry, but this guy does not warrant that type of salary. He has 2 points and he's a -1 in 31 games. I'm sorry, he's just not good. That guy fell off big time. Kreider should sit out the Four Nations if he's hurt. Do I see the Rangers moving Keandre Miller? I would get rid of him. If you ask me, I don't like the idea of giving him a long-term deal, especially with the raise that he's going to want. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think he's too inconsistent. He goes through peaks and valleys. Usually, the peaks and valleys are all extended periods of time too. Like, he'll play great for like 2-3 months, and then the next 2, 3, 4 months are just complete utter garbage. I've never seen somebody so inconsistent. Yeah, Anthony's posting that Pagnotta said that they had interest in Bixel. I mentioned that earlier on. So, and yeah, I mentioned that earlier on too, Anthony. Thank you. Yeah, Borgen got 4, and yeah, I think Miller's going to want 6, and I wouldn't give Miller 6. I wouldn't. I don't think he's worth that. I really don't. And I don't know if that's a good enough second pairing to win you a Stanley Cup. I don't. I have serious reservations about them being good enough to win a Stanley Cup with. He's played well in the playoffs in the past, but for someone who has some serious issues with like his focus and his consistency, like a lot of it is all up here with Keandre Miller, and that's really what concerns me the most. All right. I am going to have to sign off, though, guys. Thank you very much, guys and girls. Gotten Johnson, Johnson confirming Granlund and CC to San Jose. But I am going to have to sign off. I got some things that I've got to do. Yeah, I saw you say this before, Amanda. The problem is Clark is a right shot defenseman. Miller's a left. They would need another lefty. So. Yeah, cap will be – it's going up. In the next 2 years, it's going to go up drastically next 3 years. So, but yes, thank you all for joining. We all appreciate it. Remember, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. We all would appreciate that, us three. Like I said, we're looking into doing more shows. We're also looking into doing more crossover shows. You'll probably see us a bit with Ranger Central. So definitely – fix my car during the Four Nations, do everything during the Four Nations. I wish that's how life worked. I really do. I do. But yes, thank you all for joining. Definitely appreciate it. Like I said, we're looking into doing more crossovers and stuff. You'll see us with Ranger Central probably during the Four Nations break. We'll be doing something like that. We'll be doing a little bit of a roundtable, and then we're looking into other shows as well. But we have some plans that we're working on. We're going to try to expand this a little bit. So thank you all for being with us as long as you've been with us. And to everybody who's new to the channel, thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, just please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and spread the word. Let everyone know. So everybody, thank you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy, for you Ranger fans, enjoy JT Miller. I think this will be a good deal for this team. So again, thank you all. Take care.